GM just had 600,000 trucks recalled for catastrophic engine failure. Toyota is on its second major engine recall in 18 months. Same engine, same problem. Honda has 1.4 million vehicles under federal investigation right now. Hyundai paid over $1 billion in settlements, handed people replacement engines, and those engines failed the same way. These are not fringe brands. These are the 4 biggest names in the American market, and they're all imploding at the same time. That's not a coincidence. That's not bad luck. And it sure as hell isn't 4 separate isolated problems. There is one industry-wide crisis driving all of this. And today we're going to break down exactly what it is, because the manufacturers are not going to tell you. Here's the truth. Every single one of these failures, GM, Toyota, Honda, Hyundai, traces back to the same set of root causes. Engineers didn't suddenly forget how to build engines. What changed is the environment those engineers are forced to work in. And when you stack all of these factors together, you get exactly what we're seeing right now. Here is reason number 1. They stuffed a race car engine into your family truck. Alright, let me paint you a picture real quick. Back in the 1990s, this truck had a big 5.7-liter V8 under the hood. It made maybe 210, 220 horsepower. That engine had room to breathe. Big, heavy parts, thick walls, lots of metal everywhere. That thing would run forever because it was never being pushed anywhere near its limit. You could skip an oil change, run it hard in the summer heat, let it idle for 20 minutes, and it just kept going. Those engines are still out there today with 300,000 miles on them. You know the ones. Now here's what's happening today. Manufacturers figured out a trick. If you slap a turbocharger on a tiny engine, say a 2.7 liter, and crank up the boost pressure, you can squeeze 400 horsepower out of something the size of a suitcase. On paper, that sounds awesome. More power, smaller engine, better fuel economy numbers? Marketing loves it. The EPA loves it. Everybody's happy, except your engine. Here's the thing nobody tells you at the dealership. That little 2.7-liter engine making 400 horsepower, it's producing more internal pressure, more heat, and more stress on every single component than that old 5.7 V8 ever did, with literally half the metal to handle it. We're talking cylinder pressures over 2,000 psi inside that engine. That's the kind of pressure you used to only see inside purpose-built race engines that get torn apart and rebuilt after every single race. Your truck is not getting rebuilt after every race. Your truck is sitting in a Target parking lot for 45 minutes with the engine running and the AC on while your wife shops. Think about it like this. Imagine you hired 2 guys to carry boxes all day. Guy number 1 is 250 pounds of muscle, a big dude built for heavy lifting. Guy number 2 is a skinny 140-pound kid. Now you load both of them up with the exact same amount of weight. The big guy handles it fine, but that skinny kid? He's grinding through every joint, every muscle, burning out twice as fast because he was never built to carry that load. That's your modern engine. It's the skinny kid carrying a big man's load every single day for years. And here's what makes it even worse. These engines have tolerances, the tiny gaps between moving parts like the crankshaft and the bearings, that are now measured in microns. A human hair is about 70 microns thick. We're talking about gaps smaller than that. Everything has to be machined to absolute perfection for this to work. There is zero margin for error, zero forgiveness. With the old school big V8, a little extra wear, a tiny bit of debris in the oil, running slightly hot on a summer tow, the engine could handle it. The tolerances were loose enough, the parts were beefy enough. It just kept going. With today's engine, that same tiny imperfection, a microscopic piece of metal in the wrong place, oil pressure that drops for even a fraction of a second, and the whole thing starts coming apart. Because when you're running at race car stress levels with half the metal, physics doesn't care what the warranty paperwork says. The manufacturers know this, the engineers know this, but the fuel economy targets demanded smaller engines, and smaller engines with more power meant pushing the limits of what metal and oil can physically survive at mass production scale. And here we are. Reason 2. The oil in your engine is basically water now, and that was 100% intentional. This one genuinely makes me angry every time I think about it, because it is the most clear-cut example of manufacturers choosing a number on a government test over the health of your engine. Let's go back in time real quick. 20 years ago, most engines ran on 5W30 motor oil. It was thick enough to coat your bearings with a solid protective film, tough enough to handle heat and pressure, and it worked great. Then the fuel economy push started getting serious, and engineers realized something. Thinner oil flows faster through the engine, creates less internal drag, and therefore, technically, on paper, improves fuel efficiency. So 5W30 became 5W20, then 0W20. Then manufacturers started pushing 0W16. And now some of the newest engines on the market are speccing 0W8, 0W8. For context, 0W-8 is so thin that if you poured it on your hands right now, it would feel almost like water. That is what is supposed to be the only thing standing between your engine's crankshaft and total destruction. And why did they go this thin? Not because it's better for your engine, not because some brilliant engineer figured out a way to protect bearings better with less viscosity. They did it because running thinner oil saves about half a mile per gallon on the EPA's fuel economy test cycle. Half a mile per gallon. That's it. That's the entire reason your $75,000 truck is running oil that's barely thicker than the stuff you'd use to oil a squeaky door hinge. Now here's where it gets real. For thin oil to actually work, for it to protect your bearings without just getting squeezed out from between the moving parts, those parts have to be machined to incredibly precise tolerances. We're talking about the gap between your crankshaft and your bearings being smaller than a human hair. Because if that gap is even slightly too large, thin oil just gets pushed out, and your metal parts are grinding against each other with no protection. So now you've got a situation where everything has to go right every single time. The machining has to be perfect. The assembly has to be perfect. The oil has to stay clean. The oil pressure has to stay up. There cannot be a single piece of debris anywhere in that system. But real life doesn't work that way. Real life means a cold start on a January morning in Minnesota, where that thin oil takes a few extra seconds to fully circulate. And here's the part almost nobody is talking about, and they absolutely should be. Old engine bearings were built with a lead overlay on top. Not a lot of lead, just a thin, soft layer sitting on the surface. And that lead did something incredibly important. It was forgiving. If a tiny piece of debris got into your oil and hit that bearing, it would just embed right into that soft lead layer and sit there harmlessly. If your oil pressure dropped for a split second during a cold start, that lead layer would absorb it. If your engine ran slightly hot on a long summer tow, the lead could handle it. Then, environmental regulations, specifically laws targeting toxic materials in vehicles, pushed manufacturers to eliminate lead from engine components entirely. Which, look, protecting the environment matters. Nobody's arguing that. But here's the problem nobody went back and solved. When you take the lead out of the bearings, you replace it with harder aluminum-based alloys. Cleaner? Yes. More durable in a perfect world? Sure. But forgiving? Absolutely not. These new bearings do not absorb debris. They get scored by it. They do not tolerate a momentary drop in oil pressure. They take damage from it. Every imperfection that the old lead bearings would have quietly absorbed now becomes a direct attack on the bearing surface. So think about what's happening in your engine right now. You've got ultra-thin oil that provides the thinnest possible protective film. You've got tolerances so tight that the slightest imperfection breaks through that film. And underneath all of that, you've got hard bearings with zero ability to forgive any of it. You pulled 3 safety nets out at the same time, and then you cranked up the power and called it progress. The proof that manufacturers know thin oil isn't cutting it? GM's recall fix for the 6.2-liter V8 was switching from 0W20 to 0W40, literally twice as thick. Think about that. If the problem was dirty manufacturing or bad parts, changing the oil viscosity wouldn't fix anything. Dirt doesn't care how thick your oil is. GM told you, through their own recall remedy, that 0W20 was never adequate for that engine in real-world driving. They just didn't say it out loud. And they were selling you that truck with 0W20 for years before the failures forced their hand. That's not a mistake. That's a calculated decision that thin oil was good enough to pass the EPA test and survive the warranty period. And whatever happens after that is your problem. Reason 3. Machining debris is destroying bearings before you ever drive off the lot. This one's in the actual NHTSA documents. Both GM and Toyota officially attributed their engine failures, at least partially, to machining debris left inside engines during the manufacturing process. Here's how it works. When manufacturers cut, drill, and hone engine blocks, they generate microscopic metal particles, razor sharp, harder than the bearing material, and they stick to engine surfaces like concrete. The large chips are easy to find and remove, but the ultra-fine particles from honing the cylinder walls, those hide in oil galleries, in crankshaft passages, in bearing surfaces. A professional engine builder working by hand spends hours cleaning a single engine, hot tanks, pressure washing, compressed air, 5 or 6 passes through every oil passage. But GM builds 10,000 engines a day out of one plant. Toyota builds its vehicles across multiple facilities in Japan and Alabama. At that scale, you get automated rinses and quick visual checks. That's it. And here's the thing. With older engine designs running thicker oil and looser tolerances, a tiny particle of debris was manageable. The oil film was thick enough to absorb it. The bearing material was soft enough to embed it harmlessly. But with today's engines running 0W20 oil and micron-level clearances, one microscopic piece of metal between a bearing and a crankshaft starts acting like sandpaper spinning at thousands of RPM. An hour later, you've got scoring. A day later, metal on metal. A week later, the engine breaks down on the freeway with your kids in the back seat. Toyota's own NHTSA filing for the Tundra recall describes debris of a particular size and amount that can lodge against the #1 main bearing and cause failure. GM's filing calls out multiple supplier manufacturing and quality issues impacting crankshaft and connecting rod components. They're saying it themselves, in federal documents, in plain English. Reason 4. COVID broke the factories, and the engines built then are hitting their breaking point right now. This one isn't talked about enough, and it explains why complaint volumes are absolutely exploding at this exact moment in time. Engines built between 2020 and 2022 came out of factories that were completely chaotic. Skeleton crews. New suppliers were brought in with no track record because established ones shut down. Quality inspectors are either gone or running at reduced capacity. Normal validation protocols were thrown out the window because production schedules couldn't slip. GM struggled with out-of-spec connecting rod dimensions. Toyota later confirmed manufacturing contamination issues at both its Japanese and Alabama plants during specific production windows. Stellantis found actual sand trapped inside engine blocks. These are not rumors. These are documented in recall filings and corporate communications. Here's the brutal timing of it. Those 2020 to 2022 engines are now at 60,000 to 100,000 miles, exactly the mileage range where hidden manufacturing defects that were microscopic at the factory become catastrophic on the road. The warranty complaints are spiking right now because those engines are hitting their failure point right now. We're living through the delayed consequences of 3 years of compromised manufacturing, all surfacing at the same time. Reason 5. Start-stop technology is accelerating bearing wear every single day. This is the feature everybody hates, and here's why your gut is right about it. Every time your engine shuts off at a red light and restarts, oil pressure drops to 0. When the engine fires back up, there's a brief but real moment where the bearings are spinning with no oil film protecting them. That's a dry start event, and cold starts are responsible for the majority of total engine wear over a vehicle's lifetime. With older engines running 5W30 and normal bearing clearances, that brief moment was manageable. The oil film residue was thick enough to bridge the gap. Now do that same dry start with 0W20 oil, micron-tight tolerances, and high-pressure turbocharging, and every single restart is a small insult to your bearings. Your city commute might be running 40 to 50 of these cycles a day. That's 40 to 50 micro-wear events every single morning. Fleet trucks that rack up 150,000 miles on the highway often outlast personal trucks with 50,000 city miles. because highway trucks don't get this constant start-stop abuse. The miles on the odometer aren't the real story. The number of start cycles is. Reason 6. CAFE fuel economy rules forced engineers into designs they knew were risky. And now we get to the root of the root. The reason all of these other reasons exist. CAFE standards. Corporate Average Fuel Economy Rules set the average MPG that a manufacturer's entire fleet must hit or face massive financial penalties. $17 per vehicle for every tenth of a mile per gallon they fall short. A manufacturer selling 2 million vehicles that misses the target by just 1 mile per gallon is looking at over $300 million in fines, just for one MPG. One. So what do manufacturers do? They squeeze every fraction of MPG out of every engine by any means necessary. Tiny turbocharged engines instead of larger naturally aspirated ones. Ultra-thin oil, cylinder deactivation, start-stop systems, variable displacement oil pumps, direct injection. All of these technologies exist primarily to hit a number on a government fuel economy test, not because they make engines last 200,000 miles. Engineers didn't forget how to build reliable motors. The engineers who built the 5.7-liter Tundra V8 that ran forever, those people didn't disappear. What changed is that their bosses came to them and said, "We need to hit 49 miles per gallon across our fleet average, or we're paying billions in penalties. And to hit that number, we need you to do things you know are going to compromise long-term reliability at a mass production scale." The manufacturers ran the math. A predictable rate of engine failures, warranty claims, recalls, lawsuits, settlements, was calculated to be less expensive than missing CAFE targets. They made a business decision about your engine's lifespan. They chose compliance over reliability. And you are paying for that decision right now with a truck that cost you $80,000 and died at 35,000 miles. The pattern across all four manufacturers is the same. An initial fix that addresses the symptom, followed by continued failures that expose the underlying cause. And the underlying cause is that these engines were engineered to hit a fuel economy target, not to survive 200,000 miles in the real world. You can't change what the manufacturers built, but you can stack the odds in your favor. Check your VIN right now. Go to nhtsa.gov. If you're in a recall window, get that repair done immediately. With most of these failures, there's no warning sign. The engine is fine one day and destroyed the next. Cut your oil intervals in half. Your manual says 7,500 miles? Do 4,000. An extra $60 a year in oil changes versus a $15,000 to $25,000 engine replacement is not a close call. Kill start-stop every single time you drive. If your car has a button, press it. If it resets every cycle, a $50 to $100 OBD2 module can disable it permanently. You'll lose maybe 0.2 miles per gallon. You'll gain years of bearing life. After your warranty expires, step up one grade on oil. GM already moved recalled 6.2 LS to 0W40. If you're running 0W20, consider 0W30 or 5W30 based on your climate. One step heavier, not extreme, just enough to give your bearings a fighting chance. If you're buying used, stay away from 2021 through 2024 model years on any of these engines. A 2016 to 2019 naturally aspirated V8 with 90,000 highway miles may genuinely be safer than a 2022 twin turbo with 30,000 city miles on it. If your engine has failed, or if you're scared it's going to, drop your story in the comments. If this video opened your eyes, hit that like button and subscribe. There is a lot more coming on this channel because this story is nowhere near over.